Hello there, welcome to the Obi Thorin Alliance. I'm Jacob.
I'm Luke.
And in today's video we're doing a top 5 most enjoyable comedies, in our opinion, what we liked the most. Explain the rules so the audience understand.
So we've chosen comedy/sitcoms. So it needs to be a show that's had multiple seasons and its intent is to make you laugh. So if it's a drama that has a bit funny moments, it's not quite going to make it. So I think a sitcom is definitely generally a comedy. It has com in its name, implying it's a comedy. And then there's shows that I think aren't quite sitcoms but are definitely comedies. Because I think by definition a sitcom is generally a show where it surrounds a particular location, whether it be like a coffee shop, a bar, or like a university. But a comedy could be anywhere. So we've widened it to anything that's intent or category would be considered comedy. And these are the ones we find the most enjoyable. So they're not necessarily our 5 highest rated. They're just the ones that we think are maybe the most watchable, made us laugh the most, and we would recommend it to people.
Yeah.
So I went first last time we did a top 5, so Jacob's going to go this time.
Okay. At number 5 is Everyone Loves Raymond. So the concept of the show is Raymond is a news article that writes about sports, and he's the golden child. He can't do anything wrong, but he lives very close to his parents, so it has that dynamic that, you know, he loves his job, but he finds it frustrating that he lives so close to his parents. And it has funny moments because his brother's the older child, and he always goes, everything's always about Raymond. So I would recommend it if you like sports, if you like sort of, I guess, puns and making fun of people in a sort of way. I think the main problem is that the story's fine, and then unfortunately one of the main actors died, so they had to they finished the show but they couldn't continue it because the father in real life passed away. So it's an enjoyable show. I just think it might be a little bit outdated because there's newer comedies, but I think it still makes the list because I enjoyed it.
Is the main comedy it plays off mainly about families? Like you're meant to watch and go, haha, that reminds me of my family. Is that what it wants? So
yeah,
where, you know, other comedies they want to target around like what it's like to be in a group of friends, this is based upon a family dynamic?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. I've seen an episode here or there, but I've never delved into it.
Yeah. Number 4 is 2.5 Men. I think we can all agree that season 1 to 8 are excellent with Charlie Sheen, and then when Ashton Kutcher came to the show, it completely changed. Like, I had a vision when Charlie Sheen was in the show how it was going to end, had 2 ways, and 2.5 Men could have probably been at number 1, to be honest, if Charlie Sheen stayed in the show, but we all know his dramas there. And then yeah, it just went all bonkers when Ashton Kutcher, like, it was still fine, it was still serviceable, but it just lost its charm. And disappointingly, we probably got the most disappointing endings to a comedy. But, you know, the humor's hilarious from season 1 to 8, and then the story doesn't even make sense from season 9 to 12. I think 2.5 Men, it's a strange show. Like, it's definitely worth watching. I think Charlie Sheen made the show. It's just unfortunate that he couldn't be in the show because the show works. It's strange that the show kept going because it wouldn't have made sense if you haven't seen it. basically the concept is that Charlie Sheen plays Charlie Harper in the show, and basically he writes jingles, and he earns a lot of money from that. And then his brother is a chiropractor, and then that's where the humor comes from, because Alan has a son, so the humor comes from that. We get to see that actor actually grow old in the show, and since 2.5 Men, that actor hasn't actually done acting, because I believe the actors found religion and didn't like the show. So yeah, unfortunately, 2.5 Men is at number 4. Number 3 is The Big Bang Theory. I think Big Bang Theory is just an excellent show. It shows what geeks and nerds are like, and I just think Sheldon and Leonard are both amazing characters. Howard and Raj are still good as well, and I just think it's worth the time, and I think it's better than the other ones. And the concept of the show is that at the start, Sheldon and Leonard are nerds and they can't really talk to girls that well, and then Penny moves in next door and the humour starts from there. So I think it's well worth your time, and I think the comedy really is hilarious and really enjoyable. Number 2 is Friends. I think out of all the previous ones, Friends is probably the most rewatchable. The ending's okay. Would have liked to see what the characters' lives would have been like, how when the show finishes. But besides that, I think the humour is excellent, and what happens with all the characters' journey, because I feel like there's 2 parts to the show. There's one part when everyone's working out who they want to date and they see different people, and then there's one part when they're kind of settling down and then being basically couples, and the odd man out is of course Joey. Out of all of them, he's the one that doesn't find anyone. I think that's a clever storyline, beginning when they're younger and then going on finally meeting someone and then basically growing as a person. I think that's a clever storyline. Number 1 is Frasier, and basically the reason why I think Frasier is the most clever humour is because it deals with tragedy and kind of how the life is, but in a clever way. And I think out of all the other comedies, it deals with life a little bit more, because the main character Frasier is a psychiatrist, and we get to see how he deals with patients in the radio station. And yeah, I think it's a blast, and I would highly recommend it. And I think Frasier does the humour the best out of all the other shows, to me anyway, and I think it's a good lesson out of life. Yeah.
Cool. I'll ask you later any honourable mentions, because we'll probably have some that double up, so I'll do that at the end. So my top 5 is a bit different than yours. So you've tend to have gone with maybe your more classical sitcoms that are really well known. I've kind of have and kind of haven't. So at number 5, I picked Friends. I think Friends has to make the list.
Yeah.
It's very rewatchable. It's very funny. I think it will continue to stay relevant. But I've seen it so much, I don't find it as unique and as funny as other shows. I just think it's a good show because most people can watch it, where the other shows that I enjoy, I don't know if they're for other people. Where Friends, I could put it on and comfortably know it's age appropriate for anyone and people enjoy it, where some of the other ones are probably a bit, like you might only watch it by yourself or close friends. So Friends is number 5 for me. Number 4, I've gone with How I Met Your Mother. I think, again, this is somewhat, family friendly in a way. Most people can get a laugh out of it. And it's almost a copy of Friends in so many ways. But it itself just has such classic characters that make it great. I think Barney Stinson character he's like Joey in Friends, but maybe funnier. And he gets to play a bigger role. But I think they learnt from what Friends did well, and then they try to over-exaggerate it. So that's why I think How I Met Your Mother was kind of cheated in a way. They just copied Friends' formula and made it popular, but, it was still its own show. And it had a cool premise, that it was leading up to how they met the mother, and we knew how the show was going to end. We knew it was going to end with him finishing the story off. We just didn't know how he was going to meet the mother and how their relationship would be, but we knew that the show had an end point, which is different. Like, it's like watching a show in reverse. At number 4, I have gone with Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This is a show that, at the first few seasons I was a bit iffy on, but now 14 seasons in, I think it is just hilarious, but so over the top and stupid, but in a good way. And I just don't know if it's for everyone, but for me, it's so funny, and the people I know that have seen it think it's hilarious. So it's hit and miss for people, but those that like it just think it is just hilarious. It follows a group of friends who somehow own a bar, but are the worst people, the worst workers, and the dumbest people with money. But they run a bar and they run it horribly, and it's just constant shenanigans and doing dumb stuff. And it's now 14 seasons in, scheduled for another 3, I believe, and it is the longest running sitcom of all time. So it's outlasted all the other shows before it. From that, I've gone at number 2 is Workaholics, which is a show that a lot of people may not have seen, but they would recognise the actors in it. Workaholics follows a group of 3 main characters who live together in a house, and they work in a call center, and it just follows their shenanigans of drinking and partying and doing dumb stuff. And then they have an additional friend named Kyle, who is kind of like their drug dealer. But the 4 of them in real life are 4 best friends, and they grew up, they moved to Hollywood and they lived together. And the house they lived in is the actual house they filmed the show in. And they play themselves, but with a different name. So one of the main characters, his name in real life is Adam Devine, but in the show his name is Adam DeManth. Or there's another character, his name is Anders Holmes, but in the show his name is Anders Holmvik. They just slightly changed their name, but they play themselves exactly. So it's cool because now that the show's finished, they do podcast and comedy and other things, but you feel like the show's still living on because they are the show, because they played themselves. And it's just hilarious. The only thing that lets it down is it doesn't have any more seasons, but I believe there's a show coming. But that is a very funny show. And then number 1, I've got The Office, which to me is probably one of my favourite shows of all time for any genre. The Office, it took a couple of seasons to warm up to, but in the end, the characters are, they're unique, they're flawless, you love them, you hate them, they're just perfect for what they need to be. The storyline is continuously funny, it's believable, it's relatable with the Office dynamic, and I think out of any show, it has the best ending, actually. So that's why I love The Office, because it ends perfectly, which I can't think of any other show that does that. And the cool thing about The Office is, just like a show like Modern Family, they are being interviewed and they're talking to cameras, but in the end, this show integrates that, where they start talking to the cameramen, and the cameramen come on camera, and it kind of ends in a way with, we've been filming a documentary, the documentary's finished now, the show finishes. So it's cool, so you feel like you're watching a documentary even though it's scripted. And it's just a unique concept for a show that pieces together really nicely at the end. So that's my top 5. Let's do honourable mentions. What are some that just missed the list for you?
I guess How I Met Your Mother. I just feel like it didn't make the main list because I'm quite behind, and so for that reason I don't think it deserves to make the full list, but it's definitely a funny show and I think it's quite clever as well. And I guess the other one would be Seinfeld, as I will mention. I just feel like they did a clever thing with the humour with how the show was about nothing, but basically it would be about topic about life in general, and then they made a story, and then the ending just was bonkers. It was silly. And I guess the other one, more modern, would be Ted Lasso. I just feel like it doesn't deserve to be in there because it's only had 2 seasons.
And it's not finished yet, so we don't know where it could go.
Yeah.
For me, Seinfeld just misses out. Seinfeld is one of my favourite shows, but it misses the list purely because the ending partially ruins it. And did I enjoy it the most when I watched it? Maybe not. Maybe I laughed at these other shows more. But was it a better show? Yes. So in terms of the list, we've gone with which ones I enjoyed the most. And I'm going to say I didn't enjoy it as much, but it probably was better written and a better concept. As Big Bang Theory for me missed out on my top 5 because I don't know, I think sometimes the humour in that is so overdone. Like the jokes, like especially with Wolowitz, you know what he's going to say. Like it's very obvious. And once you've seen it, it even becomes more predictable. So I don't think Big Bang Theory to me is rewatchable or as rewatchable. And the comedy is, very much, family friendly, and you require a bit of intelligence to pick it up. So I liked it, but I didn't enjoy it as much as the other shows. And then as well, I think Community misses the list. This is a show that I enjoyed, a good concept of people at a community college, the main character being a lawyer, but then realising that his degree, later people finding out that his law degree was actually made up and he paid for it, but he was actually a good lawyer, so he had to go back to community college to finish his law degree. So he's gone back, and it's about him and a dysfunctional group of friends he makes, and we get introduced to Donald Glover, who is famous for his rapping name of Childish Gambino. So he's in the show, and he's kind of perfect. He's a singer, he's an actor, he's a dancer, he's a writer, he's a comedian, he's the whole package. He's one of the most talented people on the planet. We get to see Alison Brie, who's an awesome actress, and I'd say one of my on-screen crushes. Like she's very gorgeous. We've got I can't think. It's Chevy Chase. Yes, that's correct. That's his name. He's in it. He does get a bit annoying towards the end. Community only misses the list because its last season's horrible. And that's it. I think prior to that, it was really good, and it got ruined when a few characters left, and that ruined the show for me. And it just, the seasons we had that were good weren't good enough to make the list. It kind of needed to be a full package to get the top 5.
Well, thank you for watching. Thanks for helping Luke. Like and subscribe. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let the force be with you. Bye-bye.